Max Verstappen might be leaving Red Bull, and it could happen at the end of this season. The four-time world champion is contracted until 2028, but his deal contains performance-based exit clauses that could allow an early departure. And with Red Bull struggling in fourth place in the Constructors' Championship, those clauses are suddenly very relevant. Former Haas team principal Steiner just revealed that Verstappen is exploring his options with three teams: Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren. The only question is which one will make space for him. Max can only go to three teams, Steiner told Casino.org: Ferrari, McLaren, or Mercedes. But would they make something available for Max Verstappen? That is the big question. Red Bull sits fourth in the Constructors' Championship with just 30 points after 4 rounds. Verstappen himself is seventh in the drivers' standings with 26 of those points. And one of his exit clauses states that if he's outside the top 2 at the summer break, he can leave at the end of the season. Right now, he's in seventh. That exit clause is looking increasingly likely to be triggered. Let's talk about what Steiner actually revealed, which teams are in play for Verstappen, and whether the greatest driver of his generation is actually about to leave Red Bull. If you want to stay updated on whether Max Verstappen actually leaves Red Bull, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This could completely reshape Formula One. Max Verstappen's contract runs until the end of 2028. On paper, that looks secure, but the contract contains performance-based exit clauses that nobody talked about when Red Bull was dominating. Now they matter, because Red Bull isn't dominating anymore. The most significant clause relates to championship position at the summer break. If Verstappen is outside the top 2 in the drivers' standings, he can activate an exit clause and leave at the end of the season. After 4 rounds of 2026, Verstappen sits 7th with 26 points. 6 drivers are ahead of him, way outside the top 2 he needs to maintain. The summer break typically falls after the Belgian Grand Prix in late July. That's 12 races into the season. If Verstappen is still outside the top 2 by then, the exit clause activates. And given Red Bull's current form, that's looking very possible. Red Bull sits 4th in the Constructors' Championship with 30 points. Mercedes leads with over 3 times that total. Ferrari is 2nd. McLaren is 3rd. Red Bull is 4th, barely ahead of Alpine and Haas. This is a team that dominated 2023 and won the Drivers' Championship in 2024 with Verstappen. Now they're fighting just to score points. The collapse has been dramatic, and it's forcing Verstappen to consider options he wouldn't have looked at 6 months ago. Steiner, who knows the Formula One paddock as well as anyone after years running Haas, outlined exactly which teams Verstappen is considering. In my opinion, Max can only go to 3 teams: Ferrari, McLaren, or Mercedes, Steiner said. But is there anything available at the moment? Maybe not, but would they make something available for Max Verstappen? That is the big question. Would they make something available? That's the crucial phrase. All 3 teams have driver lineups for 2026, but Steiner believes they would move drivers aside for Verstappen. Who is prepared to sacrifice what they've got now for Max? Because Max is, in my opinion, the champ. He's the GOAT, Steiner explained. He's not the world champion, obviously, that is Lando, but he is a 4-time world champion. The GOAT, greatest of all time. That's how Steiner sees Verstappen, and he believes top teams will recognize that and make space. Ferrari is the first option. The Scuderia has Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton for 2026, but Ferrari has shown before that they'll move drivers for generational talent. Just look back at when Ferrari let Carlos go, who was doing a good job because the GOAT Lewis Hamilton came around, Steiner said. Carlos Sainz was performing well at Ferrari, but when Hamilton became available, Ferrari didn't hesitate. They moved Sainz aside and signed the 7-time world champion. Steiner believes Ferrari would do the same for Verstappen. The question is which driver they'd replace. Hamilton is on a multi-year deal and brings massive commercial value. He's also 41 years, old and approaching the end of his career. Would Ferrari move him aside for Verstappen? Unlikely in the short term. Leclerc is Ferrari's franchise driver. He's been with the team since 2019 and is signed through 2029. Moving him would be controversial, but if Verstappen becomes available, Ferrari would at least consider it. The Verstappen-Leclerc partnership would be explosive. 2 generational talents in the same team, either a championship-winning dream team or a Senna-Prost-style civil war. Mercedes is the second option, and this one has history. Verstappen's close ties to Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff have fueled speculation for years. Wolff has openly courted Verstappen, calling him the best driver in Formula One and expressing interest in bringing him to Brackley. Those links have cooled somewhat recently. But Mercedes currently has Kimi Antonelli and George Russell. Antonelli leads the championship. Would Mercedes move Antonelli aside for Verstappen? That's complicated. Antonelli is 20 years old and leading the championship in his rookie season. He's Mercedes' future. Moving him for Verstappen would be a bold short-term play at the expense of long-term stability. Russell is more vulnerable. He's been at Mercedes since 2022 and has yet to win a championship. If Verstappen becomes available, Mercedes might decide that a Verstappen-Antonelli partnership is their best path to sustained success. Steiner mentioned that Verstappen's Mercedes links have cooled, but he didn't rule them out. And with Mercedes dominating 2026 so far, the W17 would give Verstappen the equipment to fight for championships immediately. McLaren is the third option, and this one has the most intriguing connection. Gianpiero Lambiase, Verstappen's longtime race engineer, is joining McLaren as Chief Racing Officer by 2028. That's not speculation, that's confirmed. The timing is significant. Lambiase moves to McLaren in 2028, the same year Verstappen's Red Bull contract expires. If Verstappen triggers his exit clause and leaves at the end of 2026, he could join McLaren for 2027. By 2028, when Lambiase arrives as Chief Racing Officer, Verstappen would already be established at McLaren. And when Lambiase eventually transitions to team principal after Andrea Stella moves to Ferrari, Verstappen would have his trusted race engineer running the team. That's a compelling long-term play. Verstappen and Lambiase have worked together since 2015. Their partnership is one of the most successful in Formula One history. Reuniting at McLaren with Lambiase in a leadership role could unlock another championship run. McLaren currently has Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Both are under contract. Both are performing well. Norris is the reigning world champion. Would McLaren move one of them aside for Verstappen? That's the billion-dollar question. Norris and McLaren have a strong relationship. He's been with the team since 2019, and moving him would be controversial. Piastri is younger and represents McLaren's future. But if Verstappen becomes available, McLaren might decide that a Verstappen-Norris partnership gives them the best chance of sustained success. Some teams will think about it, Steiner said. I'm pretty sure we don't have to tell him to do that. He will be looking and speaking with these three teams, but I don't think there is one which is focused on him. Looking and speaking. That's the key phrase. Verstappen is exploring options. He's talking to Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren. Not making demands. Not forcing moves. Just exploring what's possible if Red Bull's collapse continues. And it's continuing. Red Bull brought upgrades to Miami. They didn't work. The car remains difficult to drive. And the team has lost key personnel over the past 2 years. The brain trust that built Red Bull's dominance has been depleted. Adrian Newey departed for Aston Martin. Gianpiero Lambiase is leaving for McLaren in 2028. Jonathan Wheatley moved to Audi. The brain trust that built Red Bull's dominance is gone, and the results show it. Verstappen has questioned his future in Formula One over the 2026 regulations. He's called the cars anti-racing and compared them to Mario Kart and Formula E on steroids. He's threatened to retire if things don't improve. But retirement isn't his only option. Ferrari, Mercedes and McLaren all have competitive cars. All three teams would welcome him, and all three would seriously consider making space if he becomes available. The summer break is the critical deadline. If Verstappen is still outside the top 2 in the Drivers' Championship, by late July, his exit clause activates. Right now, he's in 7th. He needs to climb into the top 2 within 12 races. That means overtaking 5 drivers. Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, and either George Russell or Kimi Antonelli. Possible? Yes. Likely with Red Bull's current car? No. Max Verstappen might be leaving Red Bull at the end of 2026. Ferrari, Mercedes and McLaren are all in play. And Guenther Steiner believes Verstappen is already exploring those options. The greatest driver of his generation is looking for a way out, and 3 teams are waiting to see if Red Bull's collapse continues long enough to make him available. The summer break will tell us everything. If Verstappen is still outside the top 2, the exit clause activates, and Formula One could be about to witness the biggest driver move in years. Max Verstappen to Ferrari, or Mercedes, or McLaren. It's not speculation anymore, it's a real possibility.